Welcome to What a Pickle, and I'm your host, Andy Auger-Dorenco, and I am very fortunate today to have with me, I would say, Mr. Pickleball, Frank Arico. Good afternoon, Frank. How are you?
Hello, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're more than welcome. So I'm going to do there's no particular order at how I ask questions, and we just go wherever way it goes.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, Karen was very kind and gave me some background on you. So I'd like to talk a little bit about you. You've been an entrepreneur, an administrator, an IT specialist, and most importantly, a pickleball player. Do you still play?
I do. When my back doesn't go into spasm, which happens occasionally from all the stress and from time spent at the computer and on Zoom meetings and things like that. Yes, I love playing. I generally play 3 times a week.
Where do you play?
My first club, actually my only club, is Runnymede Royals.
Okay. A very successful club.
Very successful. When I joined in 2016, we had about 60 members. We now have, I think, very close to 400.
Wow.
And we've had to sort of close and only let in very few extra people because venues are the challenge.
So you it's on my list. Venues, I mean, I play for Fleet Aces.
Right.
You know, we have 100 members, 100 on a waiting list. We play in 5 or 6 different locations.
Yeah.
And like anywhere, I believe if we had more locations, we would be playing more regularly, and that would cater for the various levels of pickleball.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we are very lucky in England because we have all the availability of all the badminton courts.
Yeah.
I visited Luxembourg and a number of European countries. They don't have as many badminton courts as we have. So they have to knock on tennis's door to get venues. And if they don't succeed in partnering with tennis, they struggle to find venues to play. That's one of the challenges of growing the game. You know, it's actually holding back a little bit. The growth is the availability of venues.
What, is that just in a sort of European area, or would you say just worldwide, excluding America?
I think wherever there isn't badminton available or spare tennis courts.
Right.
Because if the tennis courts are there and they're not being used, and you can play outside, although there are, but not that many indoor tennis courts.
No.
You know, we are lucky, we're geared for indoor because of our weather. So David Lloyd's have helped us. A lot of the tennis venues have been willing to work with us. And I think we've also been a little lucky. Maybe the numbers of tennis players has been low, so there is excess capacity that they're willing to give to us as pickleballers, because in Europe, some of the European countries where the tennis membership is full, they don't have any space to take new people and allow pickleball in.
Because obviously there was a bit of a debate going on before Sport England recognised pickleball in the UK as a sport with the LTA, and now Pickleball England is the governing body. Yeah,
we fought that one very hard. I personally attended 2 meetings with the LTA, and they weren't fun.
They weren't fun. I mean, I don't know if it's something we can talk about now, but what was the LTA's reticence of letting pickleball govern itself? Do they feel threatened that tennis is going to be attacked or, I don't know, diminished in any way, or?
Well, I think there's a number of things. For us, it was very frustrating because Karen and I in 2018, we co-founded Pickleball England, and we worked our socks off, putting in the governance in place, having the elections for directors, for county representatives. We started the English Open in Nottingham 2019 with, I think, under 300 players, and last year delivered over 2,000 at Telford. So we really put in a lot of effort to grow pickleball. And a couple of years ago, when we first put in the application to Sports England, it's a 2-stage process. The first stage, we passed and we got approval, and they were ready to consider the second stage when the LTA, almost out of left field, as the Americans would say, came in and said, no, we want to be the pickleball governing body. And we said, well, hang on, we've done all the hard work.
All the hard graft.
But I think at that stage, they realized what pickleball could do for tennis. It can provide grassroots. It can reduce the elitism that is, to a certain extent, that prevails in tennis.
Certainly in the UK, yeah, definitely.
Pickleball is much more, grassroots. Also, it would give them bigger numbers. So the growth, to show the numbers, to get more sponsorships and subsidies and so on. So I think that was the motivation. And we went there for the first meeting in good faith, trying to find a collaboration. Yeah. But we didn't make much headway. So, we were very pleased that eventually sanity prevailed, and, Pickleball England actually did get the recognition that they deserved, because they have pickleball at their heart. And no matter what tennis federations and organizations, national governing bodies do for pickleball, their priorities will always be tennis.
Yeah, of course.
So
what does it mean now that being recognised by sporting, and what does that mean for Pickleball England and pickleball? What does that does it open particular doors? I mean, for a lot of us, I've been talking about this with various guests over the period before Christmas. Now that it's there, I assume it opens the doors for sponsorship or funding opportunities, that sort of thing.
It does, but it also, I think, makes the sport more credible, more official, if you like. So I've coined a term for what's happening in pickleball internationally as a gold rush.
Right.
There's a lot of money opportunities. There's human greed. There's exactly the opposite. I mean, in Karen's case, this lady has spent hours and hours and hours of her time sacrificing home situations, family, and so on, to give to Pickleball England. On the other side, there's people who are very keen to make money out of what's happening and the growth and paddles and coaching and so on. So it's a little bit of a gold rush. Now, in the bigger picture, so you've got the grassroots level.
But we're only at the bottom of the curve here in the UK.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the grassroots level, the growth is spectacular. People have fun, mostly social play. But eventually, for the credibility of the sport, we need to establish and get recognition for various structures, national governing bodies, continental federations, international federation. All that has to be put in place because of the explosion and the newness of pickleball that didn't exist before.
And that's obviously to give it some governance and credibility, as you say, but also, I assume, really to stop cowboys maybe coming into and trying to take over and do their own thing.
Absolutely. And it's a whole chain reaction. You need to be part of a regulatory body supported by everybody, which in turn, let's say, can apply for the Olympics. And then you get the credibility, you get the endorsement, and then it's easier to also not exactly police, but to lay down the law. These are the rules. If you don't adhere to them, you're not part, you won't be considered for the Olympics. At the moment, it's actually very difficult where you've got, for example, competing international federations. So we are very proud in the European Federation to have set up probably the most democratic set of bylaws based on badminton, actually, modeled on an IOC member already. So everything is in the hands of the annual general meeting, the council, and the members. So the members could call a special general meeting tomorrow and vote me out if they wanted to.
So just to let people know, because we jumped ahead, Frank is the president of the European Federation of Pickleball.
Sorry.
The European Pickleball Federation, the EPF.
Correct.
And successfully, I would say, held the inaugural European Pickleball Championships in the UK in Southampton, of which we must big up Team England as they won the first one.
Absolutely.
And you've secured next year's venue in Rome.
We have,
in Italy, which is great.
September 18 to 21.
So just slightly going back, so before you became president of the EPF, as you said, Karen Mitchell and yourself, co-founders of the Pickleball England, done a lot of work, and that was back in 2018. So as effectively still a new sport, this is the 7th year of sort of English. Now, is Pickleball England, does that include Scotland and Wales, or are they separate bodies?
No, they're separate bodies.
Right. So
Scotland has been recognised at the same time by their
sort of a similar council like Sport England.
Yeah.
So jump in. So to get to be in the Olympics, we have Team GB, don't we? Which is Scottish, English, Welsh. So do you need then, or does somebody need to bring together the Scottish Federation, Welsh Federation, English Federation, and create a governing body for the UK or for GB?
Yes, I don't know the details exactly, but I believe there's
for the Olympics.
There's UK Sport that governs. So Sport England deals with England, and Sport Scotland and so on. They deal with each of the home countries. But I think there's UK Sport, which is the four together, which looks after Team GB.
So would you have to be recognised by them as well? Is that another job that you're working with Karen to do, to be recognised by UK Sport?
Correct. But I think the first step, which was very positive, is that I think UK Sport, again, I'm not 100% sure, but Pickleball was recognised officially as its own sport.
Yeah.
So not a sub-sport of tennis or anything. So that paves the way for UK Sport then to recognise once there's all four in place.
There's no reason why it shouldn't be recognised.
Shouldn't be. But, there's always twists and turns to these things.
And looking ahead, which Olympics are we hoping or wishing for?
Well,
is it 10 years away? Is it 20 years away?
Not necessarily. The IOC, from what I've heard, is very keen to include pickleball. And sometimes, if the IOC wants something, they find a way of getting
what they want.
Yeah, and you can be invited as a demonstration sport, because it's in Los Angeles.
28, isn't it?
Yeah, that could be, and pickleball is linked with the US. One never knows, but it's difficult to make a prediction. But formally, all the structures need to be built up. For example, you need one international federation that goes through all the hoops, just like we've done with Sports England, and gets recognized by the IOC. Within that, all the national associations need to formally become national governing bodies and potentially part of their own national Olympic committees.
So as your job, or as president of EPF, are you trying to, in all those European nations that are members of the EPF, I assume there is a membership?
There is a membership. There's full membership and associate membership.
Right.
Because the one, we go through a screening process, and you need to have run a national event.
Right.
You need to have had an AGM or two with documentation, with audits. You need to be a proper structure.
So how many members have you got in the EPF?
Got 37.
That's both associate and full members?
Correct. I think about 17 full.
How many European countries are there by? Do we know? I can't.
There's probably, you get some
bizarre.
Sort of the more. I mean, my geography wasn't great, but I've learned a lot.
I bet.
North Macedonia. We've had interesting one. Israel applied to become members.
It sounds a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. Like Australia were in the Eurovision Song. Maybe they'll join the European Pickleball.
Well, no, Israel you can understand because they don't have an opportunity to play in the Middle East. So I believe that they play in UEFA and football, European football.
They do, that's true. So there's a president there, isn't there?
Yeah. Turkey spans 2 continents, but they're part of us.
And they're part of the UEFA as well in the football.
Yeah.
So again, I suppose that's the same.
Russia is the other one that caused us a bit of a problem that unfortunately, from a pickleball point of view, it breaks my heart because the players generally, are non-political, but because of the war.
You get sucked into that.
You do. And we had to take a hard board decision to exclude them from the Euros.
And could they not attend? Could they not attend?
Well, it's a team championship. It's a
but
team
as a
event.
because they did it. They've done it in some other sports where they are represented, but as themselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate because I'm sure there are some fantastic players that haven't had that opportunity.
Yeah.
So we have Pickleball England, we have other governing bodies in the UK. You've got EPF. So you talk about international federation. Does that exist in a format at the moment, or is that something that you're striving for, working towards, working with?
Well, there's been quite a long history with the international federations. The WPF, World Pickleball Federation, and the IFP at the time, International Federation for Pickleball, they both set themselves up 8-10 years ago. I don't know exactly. Maybe actually no, not that long. I think it's 5-6 years formally of formal registration. They gained some traction, but they didn't really manage to consolidate all of the member countries. There were various politics and various reasons for some going to the one, others going to the other. And then you had the difficult situation too of a member being rejected on certain membership criteria by the one and being welcomed by another with open arms. There were two in existence. Then there was a bit of a breakaway from the IFP, and 9 countries pulled out of that. We actually had about 2.5-3 years ago, we spent a year trying to unify, because we need to end up with one to qualify for the Olympics. We can't have two.
What, when you say, one international federation?
International federation.
Representing...
So everybody, the whole sport.
The whole sport,
yes.
Yeah.
The IOC, one of the conditions is the sport must have one international federation representing...
The one voice representing everyone to have that dialogue, and then you can...
Yeah.
Then you can explain the rules to everyone and say, right, this is how you can join in. Okay.
So there were two, and we tried to... The countries that broke away launched a team...
was this Unified Pickleball Task Force?
Correct.
This thing that you
UPTF.
Which was, you tried, but you were unsuccessful.
We were unsuccessful, unfortunately. And again, there's various reasons. I don't want to really go into the details because we are, still working on trying to get everybody together, because at the end of the day, that has to happen for the good of pickleball and for us to get into the Olympics. So I don't want to particularly point fingers, but there are vested interests and money interests, and unfortunately, wherever there's people, you get volunteers who are willing to give their time for nothing, and you get business people, entrepreneurs who want to make money out of it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the amateur sport, needs to combine with entrepreneurs, because we need funding. You cannot run an international federation or, in fact, as we're trying to do, a continental federation on volunteers only. No. So one of my first objectives at the moment is to try and get enough funding through sponsorship, through events, into the EPF, to enable us to employ professional sports administrators who can actually run and do that full time. Because, I always say there's only 26 hours in a day,
I think Karen quoted you as saying that Frank's the only person I know who can find 26 hours in a day.
Well, yeah.
You'll find the extra 2 hours somewhere.
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a workaholic in my business life. And I retired 17 odd years ago now.
Right.
So I've just continued in my volunteer capacity. The only difference is I'm not getting paid for it now. But it's been fun, and it's really rewarding when you see, particularly the European championships. That to me was the absolute highlight, and it was worth every minute. That, the Sports England decision, that's what really makes it worthwhile.
And also, from my perspective, my first time was at the Open last year and the Nationals, and the Open, people said to us, you must go, it's great fun. And my wife and I went, and I had such a blast, and it was just great. And I think what you all managed to do really well was the fact that, I hate to say about tennis, that it is elite, and it's not accessible to everyone. And the great thing about it was the pros were playing on courts next to us. And you had the show court for big games, but at times there were little old us were playing and there's a big cheer going on about 5 foot away from you. You think that's a shot you played. No, it's Louis and Thaddeus playing on the court, or James or whatever. But that's what's wonderful. Everyone is inclusive. And I've had many of the pros on here, and you know, Louis and Thaddeus and all of those, the sports are really important to them, but the social aspect as well as afterwards as well. Always end of the game, very competitive, but we're all going to have a drink and we'll celebrate together, we'll lose together, we'll win together. And that's what was wonderful about that feeling. And that I feel it in our club. We have this social aspect, people compete, and that you don't want to lose that. And that's what's so wonderful, I think, underpins. And I think any sport, I did some football coaching, but when you talk about grassroots, I talk about grassroots is also the kids. And I feel there's an opportunity, this sport at starting at 4 or 5 or 6, whatever age, you know, putting a paddle in someone's hand, learning some skills, and then finding your way that you can go badminton, you can go table tennis, you can go tennis, you can go paddle, you can go pickleball. But we all work together, and we produce world champions. You know, I mean, to look at our pros that went over to US last year in the Open and compete against these full-time professionals and do really well. Wonderful. You know, it's wonderful. And and also seeing what happened recently in the Europeans were there and the competition that was there. And even recently the World Pickleball in India. You know, there's a country, a force of nature that's...
And China.
And China and Asia and Thailand and all of that. And Australia, with a lot of our guys are going out there to compete.
Absolutely,
And even now, I was saying to a friend of mine at the weekend, and he said, "Oh, you're into your pickleball, aren't you?" And he said, "I didn't know much about it, but even now I start to see pickleball." Because it's, if I'm right, it's its 60th anniversary, isn't it? 1965, it was founded. I've got this little timeline that Karen had on the Pickleball England.
Oh, right.
I think 1965 was when it started, I believe, in America.
Yes. Yeah, we were in Bainbridge Island last May. I went to the original court.
Really?
Saw the family and went to the I've forgotten the names now of the guys. My memory's not what it used to be. But we spent virtually a whole day there. It was fascinating.
And are you of the belief of the pickle boat or the dog?
Well, not even they are sure, but they reckon probability is that it was the dog.
Really? Yeah. No, see, more recently I've heard people going on about a pickle boat. And
no, from the family, from the horse's mouth, as it
really?
were. Yeah.
So Pickle was the dog.
Yeah.
And he grabbed the ball and that was it.
Yeah. But it was fascinating. Apparently they sent the kids. The kids were being fractious. They had a outdoor badminton court outside their front door.
Right.
And they sent the kids out, and the kids, for some reason, lowered the net. And they had a wiffle ball, and they started playing. And then the adults saw this, and they said, "Well, why don't we try it?"
So this is where in America?
Bainbridge Island.
And that's New York? Or
no, off Seattle.
Off Seattle.
You take a ferry to Bainbridge Island.
And who were the people that founded it? Do we know who they were?
I do know, but I don't remember the names.
And they are still with us, or have they passed away?
No, they have passed away. The sister and the brother and brother-in-law, they are still there, and they very proudly show you the original paddles and photographs. And
how wonderful.
It was really, and again, it was, as you mentioned, we felt part of the family.
Yeah.
You know, they were so proud, and so we had lunch with them at their house, at their home. They prepared it for us. It was.
There's something about it, isn't it? Because even going to the Open, and I mean, the reason I started this was I wanted to sort of grow the sport within the community, and I have no idea where it was going to go. And everyone's been wonderful. You know, Thaddeus was, I think, the second guest, and she said, "You need to talk to these people." And I spoke to talk to Louis, talk to them. And then I went to the Open, and I met Jared Franklin, and Jared said, "Oh, you speak to this chappie," and he introduced me from a chappie from India, and he said to me, "No, you must get this man on. Pran, yeah, I think it's him." He said he's a Bollywood director. He just loves pickleball. You got to get him on, and it's like they're all enthusiastic. It wasn't like, "Who do you think you are?" It's like, my lads have 3.5 million followers. I've got about 150 or 200 if I'm lucky, but hopefully it will grow for the right reasons. And that's where I just find everyone is welcome welcoming wherever you go. Even when you play, I've not come across many egos. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes in sport, you have some. There's confidence and there's complaint. Well, you know, I think you probably know where I'm going.
Yeah, but I think luckily, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
Luckily, the egos seem to be, or luckily or unluckily, reserved more in the administrators.
Oh, really?
rather than, I don't know why, but it's not at grassroots. It's not amongst the players. It's not so much amongst the pros, but it seems to be a preserve in the administration of the sport, and that's what we're trying to break down.
Well, I hope you get there. Now, I'm going to take you back. Now, 1952, I believe, was your year of birth, possibly.
1 year earlier, unfortunately.
1951. So, originally from South Africa?
No. Well, this now really opens a can of worms.
Please tell.
I was born in Alexandria in Egypt.
Okay.
My dad was Italian. My mom is of German origin. Now, Alex in particular, it's a very interesting historical city where before Nasser and the revolution, now I was pretty young at that stage, so I don't really know that much about it. But Farouk was the king.
Right.
And it was very colonial. So we had wonderful lifestyles, as in, you know, most colonial lifestyle with gardeners and
houseboys and
home help and things like that. So we were very spoiled. And then I went to an Italian school because I was born Italian.
Right.
My name is
Arico
Italian.
is Italian.
Yeah.
Is it pronounced correctly? Is it Avico or Avico?
Yeah, it's close. There's various. There's no. Luckily, it's quite short, so
you can't get too far.
So yeah, I was born Italian. I was never Egyptian as such.
Right.
And then there was the revolution that Nasser took over, and unfortunately, like most other African countries, they then chase out all anybody with colonial links. And we had Italians, Greek, French, Germans, Brits. It was very cosmopolitan, Alex. Cairo, a little bit less so, but also had large expat population. So for a number of reasons, some family had left Egypt earlier, and they'd all moved to South Africa, to Cape Town. Right. The weather was the same. The lifestyle was similar.
How old were you then?
I was 9.
9.
And I couldn't speak a word of English.
In 1960. So what you speak? Were you just speaking Italian?
Italian was Italian and French.
And a little bit of Arabic, maybe?
Arabic too, yes. I've forgotten all that, except for the swear words. That's about all I remember.
Mafi muk, no brains. No. Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam.
Yeah. Kafalak.
Yeah.
So a 9-year-old boy doesn't speak. Well, I suppose. The native language of South Africa at that time would have been Afrikaans, and
not so much. No, it depends on the area. English was still the predominant language, but yes, at school we learned English and Afrikaans. It was mandatory, and then of course I had Italian and French as well. So
multilingual.
I speak 4 languages. Italian still pretty fluently. French I understand 90% of it, but I'm a little rusty because I practice it very seldom. But it helps now, put in the odd word and in international circles or European circles.
So growing up in South Africa would have been the apartheid period then? Was that difficult?
It was. Well, it's interesting looking back on that, how much say do you really feel as an individual in what's what's happening? How much say do Americans feel they have right now in what's happening? Or us, with Brexit, some people feel it just happened and there was. So
you were just embedded in it.
We were caught up, in that system, which, was totally wrong. But equally, there were some of the things that were heartbreaking. As a sportsman in particular, I played cricket and rugby at school.
Yeah.
And in cricket in particular, when you actually, I read just an article a couple of days ago about Barry Richards. When you think of Barry Richards, Mike Proctor, Graham Pollock, even Peter Kirsten, Alan Lamb. I played against Alan Lamb at school.
Yeah.
We were the same age, and then he came and he played for
England. Yeah, he was great.
So, from a sporting point of view, from a cricket point of view, that absolutely incredibly brilliant generation of sportsmen were denied.
We're not seen by the world,
We're
were
not
they?
seen by the world. So the sport lost.
And the same for rugby as well, wasn't it? I'm a big rugby fan, and also that cricket area. I mean, Mike Gatting and getting all that stick when England went to play in South Africa, wasn't it?
I remember that very well. Yeah, so that was unpleasant. But having said that, the miracle of Mandela was also an incredible thing to live through. We were still there in '92. The fact that when
did he get released? When did that?
I think 1991.
Not then, so you were there.
92 was the election. Yes, I was there.
Oh wow!
We only left in 2000. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is what a big part Mandela's counterpart, President de Klerk,
he was a great supporter of him, though, wasn't he?
Well, yes, but I mean, he turned against his own people, the National Party. Right. And how many cases in history have there been where the ruling party, controlling the military, controlling, all the economics and everything else, fighting against the whole world and being sanctioned by the whole world, but nonetheless, willingly handing over power and sharing power. I mean, they shared the Nobel Peace Prize.
I remember
Mandela and de Klerk. So, that was a very positive start. Unfortunately, the miracle of Mandela hasn't lasted. He was so unique, like it's once in a lifetime, like a Gandhi or
exactly.
So him coming out of prison and showing no revenge, no malice, and actually building bridges and working on the future of the country for the good of all.
Do you think the country's gone backwards a bit then? Or is sustained its sort of position and not really...
Well, it hasn't. I think it has regressed, sadly. I mean, the potential from minerals, from a climate, from a resource point of view, human and everything else is unbelievable. I mean, it is really a very beautiful country, but the level of corruption, the level of still
going back to that greed word again, though, isn't it? This is what unfortunately humanity does, isn't it?
Crime and corruption are the two big problems, and. It drives. Unfortunately, it drives people away. There's some left there, but you need to barricade yourself behind fences.
Not a way to live, is it? It's not great. Especially, it shouldn't be have to live that. But on a positive note, I believe, though. I mean, I'm a great rugby fan, as I said. But talking to a South African guy saying that, the African or the South African team is just immense at the moment, embraced all cultures and is getting stronger, and at grassroots level as well, there's opportunities for everybody to play.
I was very touched by Siya Kolisi's speech after the second World Cup victory in France, was it? Yeah. Where he said, "My country's in a mess, but as rugby, we've proven what black and white can do when they get together and collaborate for the common good." But that, again, the greed and the control and everything else, within the country, that's where the difficulty comes in. But, when people realize we need each other, by collaborating, everybody wins. And the wonderful thing, and why rugby has succeeded so well, is that when they brought back Rassie, the current coach,
the water boy.
He said to them, "I will give you your transformation, I will give you your quota numbers, but I will do it my way. Give me carte blanche." Because the cricket, they've got the opposite. They've got tight control, and A.B. de Villiers left prematurely. Graham Smith and Mark Boucher, who were involved, they ended up leaving. So there's a lot of politics still in cricket. Whereas rugby, they said, okay, you go ahead. And what has he managed to do? He's managed to build up a team where it has the support of the whole country. A player is not in the team because of their color or their...
Yeah, just their ability.
It's just the ability.
Yeah.
And everybody supports them.
Yeah, of course.
And this quota thing is such...
And they become role models. If you're good at something, people become... If you've got personality, I mean...
Absolutely. And it inspires the next generation, and schools are coming through. So, you just need... the foresight, the maturity, the lack of ego to be able to actually
humanity.
see.
I can't remember the player, but there's one, I think, on the back of, people a lot knows, but on the back of the Southern shirts, they've got photographs.
Pimpy.
And they're all supposed to have photographs of their family. And,
yeah.
and Razzie said to Pimpy, why haven't you got any pictures? He said, I've got no one.
Yeah.
And it was so sad, really emotional.
And he has scored many, many tries.
It just goes to show that what your human spirit can do if you really have a mindset. I mean, talking of South Africa, okay, we're supposed to be talking about pickleball. But